Early in the morning, the dawn just rose above the sea. The male fisherman wearing waterproof protective gear rowed out to the shallow sea where walruses often appeared. The waves gently lapped against the side of the boat. Nets, sharp steel harpoons and walrus containers. When they saw the walruses swimming slowly under the water, they gently pressed the accelerator to bring the boat closer, lifted the harpoon in their hands, measured the angle precisely and then launched. The sharp tip of the harpoon pierced the walrus's body, causing the animal to thrash violently. Splashing water, the fisherman skillfully pulled the walrus onto the boat, being careful to avoid being injured by the small spines on the walrus's body. When the animal lies still on the deck, they use a sharp knife to make cuts along the body. Carefully separate the hard skin from the meat inside. Peel off the impurities, intestines and inedible parts. Chop off the tail, fins and head into pieces that fit your hand. Wash each piece of meat with seawater, then soak it in a cold water tank to remove the fishy smell and remaining blood. The whole process requires dexterity, patience and speed so that the meat does not spoil, while the fishermen constantly observe the surroundings to avoid big waves or dangerous animals near the boat. After completing the cleaning, the walrus meat is neatly arranged in a cold storage tank, prepared for transportation or processing. The deck is now filled with the salty smell of the sea and the fishy taste of freshly cut walrus. The morning sunlight shines on the wet meat, reflecting a sparkling light. The scene is both vivid and harsh, showing the whole process of hunting, processing and cleaning walrus meat at sea, from the precise operations of throwing spears, pulling walrus from the boat to the skillful knife cuts, thoroughly cleaned, all of which require the skills, experience and strength of the fisherman, creating a job that is both dangerous and requires high meticulousness to ensure fresh. Clean walrus meat ready for the next processing steps. After the walrus meat has been cleaned and placed in a cold storage container, the male fishermen wearing protective gear continue to check all the tools on the deck. Knives, spears, nets and containers. Clean and disinfect them preliminarily to prepare for the next hunt, and at the same time observe the surrounding sea, looking for signs of other walrus herds swimming nearby. When discovered, they adjust the direction of the boat, keeping a reasonable distance so as not to scare them. The sea wind and big waves constantly challenge the balance on the deck, but the fishermen are familiar with the job. They coordinate smoothly. One person balances the boat, one person prepares the spear, one person is ready to receive the walrus to pull up. The whole hunting process takes place continuously. Sometimes they have to face the walrus's fast swimmers or those that hide in the reefs. Capturing them requires patience and precise observation skills. When the walrus is pulled onto the deck, they repeat the process of cutting, slitting the skin, separating the meat and removing the inedible parts. Every operation is quick but careful so as not to waste the meat. Seawater splashes onto the deck. Sunlight shines down, making the remaining water drops on the meat sparkle. The sounds of the walrus struggling and the sound of the knife cutting echo together with the sound of waves crashing against the boat. The fishy smell of the sea spreads throughout the space. Fishermen sometimes have to use brushes and strong seawater to thoroughly clean each piece of meat, ensuring there are no impurities. At the same time, arrange the meat neatly in the barrel to keep the temperature even. This process takes many hours, from dawn until the noon sun is high, showing the harshness but also the discipline of walrus hunting. Every operation from hunting, pulling, cutting, cleaning, to preserving requires the strength, experience and maximum concentration of the fisherman, creating a complete process from sea to fresh walrus meat. Ready for the next processing steps as the sun rose higher, the sea began to calm down. The male fishermen wearing protective gear continued to patrol the areas where the walruses often visited. They carefully observed each coral reef, each crevice of the reef, sometimes had to bend down to look closely under the clear water to detect the walruses hiding. When discovered, they quickly adjusted the direction of the boat, coordinated rhythmically to approach the animal, holding the spear accurately. A strong throw of the spearhead hit the walrus. The animal struggled strongly and was pulled up to the deck. On the deck, the fisherman began to cut, incised along the body, peeled off the hard skin, removed the organs, tail, fins and head, washed each piece of meat under seawater, then soaked it in a tank of cold water to completely remove the fishy smell and blood. The whole process took place continuously, without stopping, while the hands and feet had to move rhythmically. The eyes constantly observed the sea and the deck. Checked the tools, cleaned the knives, spears, containers, preparing for the next hunt. This process required a lot of strength, skill and experience, from detecting walrus, accurately throwing spears, pulling onto the boat, cutting, cleaning, to arranging the meat in the box. All took place urgently but carefully, demonstrating the meticulousness, patience and great endurance of the fishermen at sea, creating a cycle of hunting and processing fresh walrus meat right on the deck of the boat, ready for the next transportation and processing. When the afternoon fell, the pale yellow light reflected on the sparkling sea surface. The male fishermen wearing waterproof protective clothing still clung firmly on the deck. The boat gently glided through the remaining waves. They continued to hunt for walruses, their eyes carefully observing every shallow water area and reef, sometimes having to bend down close to the water surface to determine the movements of hidden walruses. When they discovered them, they coordinated smoothly. One person balanced the boat. One person prepared to charge. The other person was ready to pull the walrus up. The sharp spear pierced the animal's body. The walrus thrashed violently. Water splashed everywhere, but was quickly pulled up to the deck. On the deck, the cutting process began immediately. The fisherman cut the skin, separated the soft meat from the bones and organs, removed the tail, fins and inedible head, washed each piece of meat with seawater, then soaked it in a tank of cold water to remove the fishy smell and remaining blood. Each operation required precision and speed to keep the meat fresh. Everyone worked continuously, arranging each piece of meat into the cold storage tank, checking the temperature and ensuring that the meat was free of impurities. The space on the deck was filled with the salty smell of the sea and the fishy taste of fresh walrus. The sound of knives, the canal, the sound of walrus splashing and waves mixed together. Experienced fishermen moved skillfully on the slippery deck, their eyes always alert to the surrounding environment. All happening continuously, from detecting walrus, throwing spears, pulling it onto the boat, cutting, cleaning, arranging the meat in the cold storage box, showing a professional, harsh but diligent cycle. The work is both dangerous and requires meticulousness, endurance and many years of experience, creating a complete process from hunting walrus at sea to cleaning and preserving fresh meat. ready for the next processing steps or transporting it back to shore as the sun gradually disappeared behind the horizon. Parts. The pieces of meat were thoroughly washed with seawater, soaked in cold water to completely remove the fishy smell and remaining blood. The sunset light shone on the wet meat, making them sparkle. The fishy smell of the walrus mixed with the salty smell of the sea filled the deck. The fishermen continuously checked the cold storage box. Spiny lobster fishing is a long-standing traditional occupation and brings high economic value in many coastal areas. Fishermen often set out early in the morning before sunrise, carrying iron or wooden traps, woven with nets to form cylindrical or box-shaped cages. Inside the traps, they put bait such as fresh fish, squid or crushed fish meat to attract spiny lobsters to enter. Spiny lobsters are creatures that live hidden among coral reefs and reefs, staying in deep caves during the day and only coming out to feed at night. Therefore, the time to set traps is often carefully calculated, mostly in the late afternoon or at night, when the lobsters are most active. After being baited, the traps will be dropped to the seabed at a depth of a few meters to tens of meters depending on the area. Each fisherman can drop hundreds of traps, connected by long fishing lines and marked with buoys on the water surface to determine their location. After releasing the traps, they usually leave them overnight so that the lobsters have enough time to be attracted by the bait and crawl inside. When dawn breaks, the fishermen's boats head out to sea again, starting the work of collecting the traps. Each trap is carefully pulled up by hand or with a small electric winch, because inside there can be large, strong spiny lobsters with long antennae and rough, hard shells. When the traps are pulled out of the water, the fishermen quickly open the lid to check. Use thick gloves to pick up each lobster and put them in a plastic container containing cold seawater or a live container with aeration. Spiny lobsters are a valuable species, so they must be very gentle to avoid breaking the antennae or scratching the shell, which would reduce their value. Small ones or those carrying eggs will be released back to the sea to protect the long-term resource, demonstrating the sustainable exploitation consciousness of the workers. After checking all the traps, the fishermen will replace the bait and continue to release them back to the same location, creating a continuous cycle for many days. During peak season, this work takes place day and night, requiring strength, skill and perseverance. When the lobsters are brought ashore, they will be classified according to size and health. Large, healthy lobsters are kept in saltwater tanks waiting for traders to buy, export or bring to high-end seafood restaurants. Weak lobsters or those with broken antennae will be sold to processing facilities. Although the profession of catching spiny lobsters with traps is hard, it brings a stable income and is the pride of many fishermen in coastal areas. It not only reflects the ingenuity and experience accumulated over many generations but also demonstrates the spirit of harmony with the ocean, responsible exploitation and conservation of marine ecosystems. On each trip out to sea, despite facing strong winds, big waves or unexpected risks, fishermen still keep in their hearts the faith and excitement when pulling up fresh batches of lobsters, a symbol of luck and the fruits of honest labor in the vast ocean to be effective in catching spiny lobsters with traps. Fishermen must have a deep understanding of the biological characteristics of this species of lobster. Spiny lobsters often choose to live in rocky reefs, coral crevices, clear waters with coral sand bottoms, where there are many nooks and crannies to hide. They move slowly, mainly at night, so determining the time and area to set the trap is a decisive factor for success. People with many years of experience often rely on watercolor, flow direction and the appearance of small fish to predict where lobsters live. Each trap is designed with a funnel-shaped entrance, making it easy for lobsters to get in but difficult to get out. The structure of the trap is carefully calculated to be strong enough to withstand strong currents while ensuring ventilation so that lobsters do not suffocate. Fishermen also carefully tie rocks or heavy objects to the bottom to prevent the trap from being swept away by waves. After being dropped into the sea, each trap is attached to a rope tens of meters long and the end of the rope has a buoy painted in a distinctive color. Making it easy to identify among hundreds of other traps on the sea surface. The work of collecting the traps in the early morning is the most interesting but also challenging stage. When pulling the rope up, the worker must feel with each stroke of his hand to see if the trap is heavy or not. Because if he feels a sudden weight, it could be a sign that there are shrimp or other creatures such as fish or crabs inside. Sometimes, when the trap is pulled up, there are not only lobsters but also bottom fish, octopus or starfish accidentally caught inside. Fishermen will separate them and release them back into the sea if they have no economic value. The spiny lobsters caught after being brought onto the boat will be processed immediately. Fishermen often use cold seawater to wash away the sand and mud. Then put them in plastic tanks with oxygen to keep the lobsters healthy during the journey back to shore. Meanwhile, some large boats have automatic seawater tanks that help keep the shrimp fresh. Ensuring the highest quality when sold. To preserve shrimp for a longer period of time, some fishermen also apply a special on-site quick freezing technique using ice to preserve the flavor and firmness of the meat. When arriving at the port, the shrimp are brought ashore and immediately transferred to the seafood market or purchasing factory. The largest, healthy spiny lobsters with long whiskers and shiny shells are the most expensive. Often exported to Japan, China or Europe, each successful catch can bring in tens to hundreds of millions of VND for each boat. However, to achieve that result, fishermen have to face countless difficulties: erratic weather, big waves, strong currents, and even sudden storms that can cause them to lose a series of traps. However, the shrimp trapping profession is still maintained because it brings economic value and causes less damage to the marine environment than other forms of exploitation. Each trap is collected and reused many times. Without causing damage to coral or seabed habitat. Therefore, catching spiny lobsters with traps is considered a sustainable method, contributing to maintaining ecological balance and protecting natural resources for future generations. For fishermen, each sea trip is not only a journey to make a living but also a dialogue between people and the sea, where they entrust their faith, experience and pride in a traditional profession that has been attached for many generations. Work at sea is never separated from the daily routine of fishermen. After harvesting spiny lobsters, the workers start cleaning the traps, cleaning the deck and checking the condition of the ropes, buoys and traps to prepare for the next trip. Every small detail is carefully taken care of. Worn lines will be replaced. Damaged buoys will be repaired. Torn traps will be mended, ensuring the next fishing trip is highly effective. Fishermen also monitor weather conditions via radio waves. using sea forecasting applications to choose the right time to go to sea. Avoiding unexpected storms that can wash away the traps or endanger the boat. While resting on the boat, they share experiences. Observe the reactions of lobsters in the traps to draw out more optimal baiting techniques, such as changing the type of bait, trap placement, or dropping depth. This experience is the result of many years, even many generations, and determines the success rate of each trip. In areas with a lot of spiny lobsters, fishermen often work together in groups, sharing trap locations to avoid competition and increase harvest efficiency. They also record their fishing history, the number of traps, and the number of lobsters they catch, which helps them plan for the next season and predict when the lobsters will spawn to protect their resources. This work requires endurance, patience, and keen observation skills. Lobsters do not always go into traps. Sometimes they are pulled up only to find empty areas, or traps are damaged by big waves, sharks, or crabs. At such times, fishermen do not get discouraged but learn to adjust, experiment with new baits, change their trap strategies, and even swim down to check the traps underwater if necessary. When the fishing season ends, spiny lobsters are sorted, carefully packaged, and shipped everywhere, from local seafood markets to luxury restaurants or exported abroad. The economic value of spiny lobsters depends not only on quantity but also on size, color, and vitality, so care and preservation immediately after harvest are extremely important. Spiny lobster trapping also brings many cultural values. This tradition is passed down from father to son, associated with stories of the sea, unique fishing techniques, and a spirit of respect for nature. Fishermen understand that the sea is not only an economic resource but also a living environment that needs to be protected. So they always comply with regulations on sustainable exploitation, protecting the reproducing lobsters, and not destroying coral reefs and the seabed. Thanks to carefulness, ingenuity, and perseverance, spiny lobster trapping still exists and develops, becoming a symbolic image of the bond between people and the vast ocean, where every sea trip is an adventure, a journey of labor, experience, and pride. Spiny lobsters pulled up from the seabed are not only valuable products but also living proof of the perseverance and hard work of fishermen, where they both conquer nature and maintain the ecological balance of the ocean in addition to setting and collecting traps. Fishermen also pay attention to observing the habitat of spiny lobsters to adjust their fishing strategies. They often monitor factors such as water level, temperature, currents, and even the color of the seabed, as these factors directly affect the appearance and activity of lobsters. When they detect areas with many caves, coral reefs, or small fish species, they will prioritize setting traps there to increase the possibility of harvesting. Another important technique is rotating trap locations. If a location has been harvested continuously but lobsters appear less, fishermen will try to move the trap to a neighboring location, thereby avoiding exhausting an area and at the same time improving the rate of lobster catch. On board, handling spiny lobsters requires precision and dexterity. The lobsters just pulled from the traps are washed clean of sand and mud, checked for health and size, then sorted by type: adults, juveniles, and eggs. Small shrimp or those carrying eggs are released back into the sea immediately to maintain natural resources. The classification is not only to sell at a high price but also to demonstrate the fisherman's awareness of protecting the marine ecosystem. For healthy shrimp that meet commercial standards, fishermen will use plastic containers containing cool seawater or oxygen-circulating tanks to keep the shrimp alive, ensuring that they are still fresh when they reach consumers. For long trips, they often arrange the shrimp storage area in layers to avoid overlapping and damaging the shell or whiskers. And add new seawater to maintain a stable temperature and oxygen concentration. In addition to working directly with traps and shrimp, fishermen also perform activities to maintain the ship and equipment, checking the engine, cleaning the deck, maintaining cables and buoys, and checking the trap nets. All of these tasks affect the efficiency of exploitation and safety at sea. Each trip requires smooth coordination between members on board, from steering the ship, pulling traps, classifying shrimp to managing equipment. Each individual clearly understands their tasks and coordinates flexibly to optimize productivity while ensuring safety. Spiny lobster fishing, despite its arduous and difficult nature, is still an indispensable part of coastal life. It not only provides a stable income but also preserves cultural values and long-standing traditions. The trips to sea, the batches of spiny lobsters pulled up from the deep seabed, are the crystallization of the fisherman's patience. Skills and love for the sea. They understand that each lobster is part of a large marine ecosystem, and sustainable exploitation is the way to maintain a long-term source of life for the ocean and for their own profession. Every time the ship docks, the sight of spiny lobsters stacked in crates, shining in the morning sunlight, is not only the result of labor but also a source of pride. A testament to the harmony between humans and nature, where skills, experience and responsibility coexist, creating a traditional profession that is both harsh and meaningful, a unique cultural identity of coastal fishermen at the end of a fishing season. Fishermen begin to summarize and draw lessons to prepare for the next fishing season. They carefully record the number of traps used, the number of spiny lobsters caught, the most effective sea areas, the time when lobsters appear most, changes in currents or water levels. All of this information becomes important data to predict the next season and optimize fishing strategies. In addition, fishermen also pay attention to the maintenance of traps and equipment. Trap nets are patched, old cables are replaced, buoys are repainted in bright colors for easy identification, winches and engines are checked and lubricated, ensuring that everything runs smoothly when going out to sea again. For long-time fishermen, going out to sea is not only a job but also an art. They understand each wave, wind direction, water flow and know how to set traps so that spiny lobsters can enter most easily while still ensuring safety for the boat. These techniques are passed down from generation to generation, closely linked to the life experience and delicate ingenuity of each fisherman. In community life, the profession of catching spiny lobsters by traps also creates a close bond between coastal families.